Hey, welcome to a new episode of Expats. We're here with Sam and Mary's Pub.
Hello.
Thanks for having us here.
You're welcome, guys.
And let's have a little know about how Mary's Pub came to be.
Sure, I get asked that question at least 5 times a day, so I've kind of got this one down to a science. So, long story short, Mary's Pub is named after my grandmother. She died in 2016, and she died and she left me some money.
Oh.
So with the money, I decided to go traveling. I did a bit around Southeast Asia with my wife, and we were traveling around Southeast Asia, Europe. Didn't get to the Middle East or South America, but we came to Georgia, and we were thinking to ourselves that this is a nice place. This at the time.
It is indeed.
At the time, it was very cheap. Things have changed since then. My wife is from the Ukraine, and before the war, it was very difficult for us to be in the same country without a lot of paperwork and visas and stuff. So, yeah, we both could get this 1-year stamp that we still use, and basically all the kind of boxes were ticked. It's warm, it was very safe in terms of crime, relatively peaceful, cheap. It just seemed like a great option. So.
It's still a very viable option.
Still is, very much so, still is. And so going back to how Mary's was formed, we actually formed Mary's Pub in 2020, right in the middle of the COVID pandemic.
Oh my God. And you managed to get customers in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, I hope that the police aren't listening to this, but during COVID we were operating a little bit under the radar, like everybody was in fairness in this town. But yeah, we had a steady client base because we were members of a very small but very tight, at the time, English-speaking community. And there was an Irish bar before, but to be honest with you, there was some kind of issues there because, without to go into the intricacies of it, people fell out of love with the place.
Okay.
So we decided, there's a gap in the market now, and I have a lot of experience. This was the trade that I was working in Ireland for many years. And in fact, it's actually a family trade. Both my parents and my grandparents had bars in the UK.
So you made your family really proud.
My father and my mother say that we've done things. I can't not say the importance of my wife in this.
Yeah.
If it was just me, it wouldn't be anywhere near as successful as it is. It would just be 2 beer taps and some plastic cups. What my wife has made it into. We've expanded our business from the 1 place to 3 places. So.
Well, it's a lovely place to be.
Thanks, man.
I see a lot of flags around here, so you guys welcome all ethnicities, all nations,
Everybody is welcome. We do not care where you're from as long as you are just a human being.
If you can sum up the mood of Mary's Pub in 1 sentence, what would it be?
I can sum it up in 1 word.
1 word?
Yeah, community.
Community, wow.
Yeah, we're a community here. We are the center, we try to be the center of the English-speaking community. As I've mentioned previously, we have another place in Kutaisi. We're doing the same idea there. There's a small English-speaking community. We're trying to bring the essence of what a pub is. A pub is a short term for public house.
Public house, yes, 100%.
So the first pubs were literally people opening up their houses, the front rooms to their houses, to people, to sell them food and drink, but it was a meeting place, and that's generally the idea of Mary's.
So you have a lot of regulars that come back here.
People like tourists who have come back year on year come for a week or a day. We have a lot of regular customers who are I'm just looking around now. There's 4 or 5 guys outside who, again, one of them's English speaking, the rest are Russian speakers. But people fall in love with this place because of that's the idea. We're not fancy. We're very chilled out and relaxed. The staff wear t-shirts and jeans. They tell you a joke if you want to hear a joke. If you want to be left alone to read your book, they do that as well.
The fanciness is in the enjoyment of the moment more than the actual.
And the quality of the stuff that we sell as well.
But the decoration is fantastic, actually. I've rarely seen something as elaborate as this pub's decoration.
Elaborate isn't the thing. A lot of it's out of necessity because, you can't have a pub without the crap on the walls. You know what I mean? And stuff around you, you can't obviously see, dear listeners, but on the shelves you've got empty bottles, but like there was a shelf there and it looked terrible that there was nothing on it. So we were selling alcohol. We saved the bottles, put it on the shelf.
So when you guys got the place, it already looked like that, but you guys decorated it, or
It basically the walls weren't green. The walls were like a off-white color, and the stonework stuff that was there. The murals were painted by my wife.
Nice, good job.
So yeah, she's really good at that. And our place in Kutaisi is full of these murals that she painted.
Your place in Kutaisi is called Mary's Pub as well?
Yeah, Mary's Batumi, Mary's Kutaisi, yeah.
All right.
Trying to build, basically, what happens when people come to Georgia, especially English-speaking tourists or, people coming to move, they have a very hard time, because I know myself, I went through it. They have a very hard time associating with things, and I know a lot of people, the first thing they do when they come to a strange city, especially if they can't speak to the locals, is they probably Google something like Irish pub, expat pub, and that's what we try to kind of capitalize on.
Which is exactly the idea behind the Expats Radio. We're trying to get people together who manage to speak English, and
this is called synergy.
Synergy, 100%. That's the word of the day.
Word of the day.
And I saw a lot of currency from different countries.
Sure, yeah.
So any anecdote about that?
Well, it makes it sound like we're truly, truly international. I mean, yes, the currency. I think we did an estimate. There's over $5,000 or $6,000 worth of currency, but it's all small bills.
Really?
Yeah. And it's come they wide from obviously a couple of Georgian notes all the way up to, there's actually a North Korean banknote somewhere up on the wall.
Oh wow.
Guy from Finland came in and dropped it off. He said, "Hey guys, you're gonna love this." But anyway, it started with 6 bills that customers. So I got paid once in a $10 bill, and I was just like a Canadian $10 bill, I should say. And I was like, oh God. The guy was hammered, and I was just like, mate, you
no point in even trying to discuss
he
it.
paid me, and I'm like, well, yeah, okay, fine. It's worth more than what you're paying for. Okay, I'll take it as a tip. So I put it on the wall, and then 1's turned into 6. And then a friend of mine, a regular, I keep saying friend of mine. That my regulars they do become.
Well, that's the beauty of it.
Friends.
I mean, we've had a small chat
friends.
before we started this interview, and we were already getting on the way to become like BFFs.
That's it, man. That's awesome, bro. That's awesome. No, but basically, one of the lads is Polish, and I didn't have a Polish note, and he's like, so Sam, I see you've got you're starting a collection here. Do you need some more? I'm like, yeah, man, of course. And me expecting, a 10 zloty note or something. And he's like, okay, yeah, cool. And he's like, no, I'll come tomorrow and I'll bring you something. I'm like, oh, okay. And so next day rolls around, and he comes in and he has a small brown envelope, like those manila envelopes that the government gets sometimes.
The shady envelopes.
The shady envelopes. I'm like, dude, what's this? And
You've been served.
He's going, go on, open it. I was like, so I opened it. And honest to God, there was about 120 different bills from all over the world.
Wow.
And I'm like, wow. And he's like, I was like, are you sure, bro? And he said, yeah, it's fine. And then he explained to me that for the last 15 years, he'd been working on cruise ships.
Oh.
So he was getting off at port, and he was doing his thing, and he'd always had a couple of notes left over, put them in a bag, never thought anything of it. And he's like, mate, I have a great collection, but this is like my extras. And I'm like, all right, cool. So we stuck them up, and then that's gone from that to, I'd say there's probably about 500 around at this point, because they're here and there are other places as well, so it's sharing them around a little bit. But, yeah.
That's an awesome.
Yeah, I mean, our regulars or the customers we have are fantastic people, and some of them are very, very, how would I say, quirky, and very kind of.
Any funny story? What's the most relevant story you can remember happening in Mary's Pub?
Most relevant.
Yeah, like the one that strikes you.
The one that strikes me the most is we get a lot of military guys that come through here.
Okay.
Both from the Navy. Both navies and armies, generally. And one of the funniest days that we ever had here, it was during the European Championship of football.
Of course, the thing that gathers people.
Exactly. England were playing Germany. And we had the only screen at the time, because now in Batumi there's loads of places, but we had the only dedicated big screen that showed the football. And also, we could show it in English, because we have a software that we can use where we just stream straight from the UK.
Okay.
And so we hear it's actually the morning before the match, we hear this huge, air horn from the port, What the hell is that? And we weren't living anywhere near the actual port at this time.
They were hyping you up.
Yeah, we read the news, and it was a British destroyer was in port.
Okay.
HMS Defender. Okay, we actually have their. I finished at the end of the story, but HMS Defender came to the port of Batumi, and they were docked for 5 days because they had sailed too close to Crimea, and the Russians started firing warning shots at them. So they hightailed it to Batumi to kind of lay low and to go back out the Bosphorus and back out. So anyway, they stayed, and it turns out that they were going to be here for the match. And they were. I got talking and drinking with one of the guys. Turns out he was like an officer on the ship, and he says to me, "Don't worry, man. I'll fill your bar tomorrow with guys from the ship." I'm thinking, yeah, this is one guy. He's gonna have like 6 or 7 people, maybe 10 people.
You had an entire crew in the
the whole fucking ship, and this is English sailors, football fans. Oh my god, the place. They drank me completely dry. Everything was gone, which is great, obviously, in the business. But the fact is also England won that game.
Oh!
I'm surprised that the bar is still in one piece. Like, there was one guy dancing on the bar, there was guy, more than one guy dancing on the bar, guys dancing on the bars, running around outside. They stopped traffic for a while to do some kind of mad ritual that they do when football's on or something. And it was just an absolutely incredible evening. Obviously very good for the business, but everybody remembered us from then.
Of course, it is memorable. It's like
very memorable.
Home away from home.
Absolutely. And since then we've had other ships, obviously a lot more tame than that, of other guys coming through. We actually have the HMS Defender gave us their insignia from their ship. It's actually sitting behind the bar right now. So people come in who are military and they notice that. Also, we have a lot of connection with the US Special Forces Green Berets. They drop by whenever they're in town. In fact, their last deployment has left literally 2 days ago.
We just missed them.
Just missed them. And these guys are a lot of fun. They have a stressful job here. They're overtly training the Georgian army, and they come in and they enjoy themselves. And they can be.
Where else to be?
Exactly.
Than in Mary's pub.
Exactly. God, that sounds like a jingle on the radio.
What about events? Do you guys host different events, or do you have a specific schedule that takes place?
So basically everything of us is revolved around the weekends. So that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights. So those 3 nights a week we'll have live music. We have God, this guy's incredible. We have a guy, I have to tell you the story about Sergey.
Of course.
So Sergey, we call him the glorious grandfather. Okay. Because Sergey is about 6 foot tall. He's got a beard that's maybe 3 foot long, and he plays the banjo.
Is he the guy on the bicycle?
He was the guy on the bicycle you saw cycling by
we
today.
Just saw him outside.
He's playing because we have him Friday nights. So he's playing Sunday. You've got to make a living, bro. He's playing in another place today, and we found him as a busker on the boulevard.
Okay.
And he actually was singing an old Irish song in Irish, and I was really kind of confused about it, going, that's well. First of all, it's a folk song. O Roche de Vahawalia is the name of the song, right?
That's too accurate.
And I was like, it's too accurate that he knows, and he knew the words. And I was going, okay. So when he finished, I approached him. I said, do you want to play? My wife wasn't there at the time. I said, do you want to play with an Irish pub? You want to play in an Irish pub? How much do you earn a day? And I was like, we came to an agreement. He was very happy with. I was very happy with. I said, right, but you got to pass test my wife, right?
Of course.
He comes on his bike. And his banjo on his back, right? So it's straight out of Deliverance, And he comes, and my wife's like, "Oh my God, what is this? Who's this guy?" And
apparently, that's what gets people.
Certainly looked the part, Yeah. And then he tuned up his banjo, started playing, and he sang another song in English and stuff, but another Irish folk song. And my wife was like, "Oh my God,
how could this be?
How could this be?" Turns out Sergey's from Siberia.
Oh,
he's not even. His name's Sergey. He's a Russian.
But
he was a Russian. He looks like a hillbilly.
Yeah.
But he sings wonderfully, and he plays completely acoustic as well. Well, apart from the microphone, obviously. But he's got projection in his voice that he doesn't need the microphone half the time. But yeah, he's incredible.
So he's going to be on Friday nights.
Saturday nights we have a couple of different musicians. Saturday and Sunday night we have a couple of different musicians that we orientate between sort of classic rock and singer-songwriter stuff.
Do you have any local bands that got popular after singing here?
No, well, what I will say is we were comfortably the first place to start having people in, like one dude playing a guitar, and or two guys playing a guitar and singing and playing. and they've since gone on to playing in big gigs in the cities, because like when the cities had like Independence Days and these kind of celebrations, they've gone and played. There's a guy Temo who used to play for us. He still plays for us in fairness, not so often now, but because he's like so busy everywhere, and it's cool to see that guy Timo. I can't remember his surname, will come to me, but Temo. Everybody knows Temo and Batumi anyway.
All right.
So, Temo the musician, they know who I'm talking about.
It all started here.
Well, it did, It did, It started in our first ever place, and he's a good friend, and he's done very well for himself,
What about other than? So you guys play music regularly? You screen matches, football matches all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever you want. I mean, I've got. Well, it's Georgia. One of the great things I love about Georgia, I have this stick. Right, that I can show every match, everything from any country you want. So, like, if you guys want to watch Turkish basketball or I don't know.
So it's not limited to soccer or football.
No, I'm a rugby fan, man. The Rugby World Cup's coming up.
All right.
That will take precedent as well. But I mean, it's anything you want.
Okay.
We can show in whatever language you want.
I used to follow hockey a lot.
Ice hockey.
Is that a thing here?
Ice hockey. Well, it's more of the neighbour to the north likes hockey more. But it's not really a thing here because there's not much ice apart from right up in the mountains. Not many ice skating rinks available here. But certainly there's call for it because there's a lot of now Russian, Belarusian, Ukrainian people here. So there's definitely a call for it. Yeah.
Okay.
100%, so.
And if you can tell a foreigner that just got to Batumi what to do in one day or 1 week, like any tips, any...
In Batumi?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously the place where you can go swimming on a good day.
Sure.
But on a rainy day.
On a rainy day in Batumi. Oh, wow.
Which is very common, actually.
It's very common. Well, first of all, I'd say to the tourist
come to Mary's pub.
First of all, yes, because, the boss is listening. But what I would say first, if you're thinking of coming to Batumi, first of all, pack a poncho.
A poncho?
A poncho, because, as you said, you never know when it's going to rain here, so be prepared. And if the unfortunate happens and the heavens open when you arrive here, best thing you can do is come to one of Batumi's finest establishments. I'm not talking about mine. I'm talking about one of there's many here. You come and you sit and you have a conversation and you meet the locals. Because this is where the people are. Of course, some people they don't leave their house, but if anybody's on the street, anybody's out. They're not outside. They're inside. So you'll find where they are, and they're in places like Mary's. They're in places like Sinners. They're in places like Popeyes. They're in places like the Quiet Woman. They're there, and that's what you do.
Well, to my experience, Georgians were very welcoming, and there was this whole language barrier at first. But the second you say "Gamar Joba" to someone, you see the smiles light up on their faces.
Or you give them a wee cheeky madloba.
Yeah, madloba in the end. And I just learned recently Didi madloba, which is like the grand scale of a madloba.
Big thank you.
So what are we expecting tonight? What's taking place in Mary's pub?
So tonight there'll be a musician, there'll be a singer-songwriter tonight, playing actually practically where we're standing. That will kick off at about 9 o'clock. He'll pay for a couple of hours. But to be honest with you, my friend, it's a lazy Sunday. We had a busy weekend.
Yeah.
So I imagine a lot of people are probably...
hungover.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Well, the
Try
best
to be
way...
a little bit more democratic about it, but yeah, there's no way about it. Definitely hungover.
The best way to fix a hungover is by drinking more.
The hair of the dog, man. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What type of music do they play usually, or is it completely random?
Well, honestly, it's not random. For instance, electronic music for me in a pub is it's a big no-no. Personally, I don't like it.
Well,
so the guys will come in and they will play. They'll play anything from classic rock to folk music.
Oh, it goes up to rock.
Oh yeah, there's a couple of guys. There was one lad we have in here. I haven't seen him recently, and I hope that means good things for him. That boy could shred. Oh,
so you have distortion. It's not unplugged only. It's
no. I mean, like everywhere, we have to be careful because of our neighbours, because literally right above us is where our neighbours are, and this is where people play. So we have to be careful with what we do. But sure, when at 9 o'clock, if someone wants to let it rip, oh yeah, we can do that. But getting further into the night, we have to stop at 11 o'clock.
What? 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
And Mary's pub closes usually at about what time?
Well, honestly, due to the greatest thing in Georgia is the fact that there's really no alcohol licensing here or licensing for commercial alcohol
Oh,
premises.
it's not a thing here.
Not a thing.
Okay.
So we technically could be open 24 hours, but I prefer my sanity, my wife's sanity, and the guys obviously need rest. They do a great job here. Misha and Diana and Chibarashka, Sophia, as I call her. They do a great job here, and also the chefs as well. I can't imagine running them 24 hours. They just lose their mind, So yeah, basically, we generally the advertised official closing time is 1 o'clock. Mm-hmm. But I mean, sure, if you're walking past us at 1 o'clock, we ain't gonna say no.
So you're not gonna hate us for hanging around for longer hours?
Oh God, no.
Because one beer leads to another and another, and then
one beer leads to a second beer, especially at 1 o'clock in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Exactly.
So one beer leads to another beer, then it leads to a lifetime friendship. That's generally what happens. That's how you make
wise
regulars.
words.
That's how you make regulars, mate.
Usually we're afraid because we're always thinking, okay, we want to order another round, but I think the staff is gonna be.
Well, to be honest with you, the custom here with that is they generally stay to the last customer anyway. Mm-hmm. So even if you're sitting there like I have half a beer in front of me, you could sit there for half an hour if you wanted to.
So nobody's gonna kick me in the face for not finishing my beer, and they'll be like, "Have another one."
Yeah, they'll be more likely to sell you another one than kick you in the face. Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's a generally amazing mood. I've been here for a couple of weeks, and I love the mood. Usually it's super packed.
Yeah, I mean it does. Right now as I said, we're one of our lazy Sundays.
Well, we did come early in
that's also
your
true.
defense.
That's also true. No, but I mean today's a lazy Sunday, but last night I was in here myself, overindulging, as I would say, with a few friends, and it was exactly how we envisioned it.
Yeah.
How we had envisioned this place to be was a very chilled out vibe. Some guys getting crazy, some guys keeping to themselves. There was a few German lads in here watching some football. Georgia were playing Belgium in the football. Yeah, so we had locals in for that, and everybody mixed and mingled.
And people like if you come alone, you can definitely have start a new conversation with someone, and
it's encouraged. Well, I encourage my staff to speak to people who are like. That's one of the things I ask. My wife also really does it on me because sometimes I don't want to speak to that guy. It's not because I'm tired of talking to people because it happens, of course. And my wife's like, "Oh, you need to go talk to that guy." I'm like, "All right, talk to that guy." Turns out, it's awesome.
Because that's a cure, honestly. We've been here for a while, and I realized that if you cut out the social aspect, because we came here for business, and then we were like so invested in our like work and everything, we realized we were missing out on social life. And the second it got sunny, we have to specify it got sunny, and we went out. We met so many people. People were warm. Drinks are like flowing, and we were like enjoying our time.
That's it.
And we got to meet you as well, which is fantastic.
Melted my heart.
No. So what are you having now?
I'm drinking a delightful German Weiss beer called Schofferhofer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite beer?
Here of our selection, yeah. We've got 11 beers on tap at the moment.
Oh, okay.
And,
11 brands.
This has been had this since day one, and it's been very steady, and it's awesome. I mean, you were sitting on the kegs outside, and guys picked up yesterday.
For those who can't see the pub right now, my favorite spot to sit in Mary's pub is actually outside on the kegs, having a cigarette and my beer. This is something I've never done anywhere else. Sit on kegs. That's a first, and I'm loving it.
It's a real Irish thing because generally Irish pubs are small.
Yeah.
And a beer keg can be like, well, these are small ones. These are 30-liter kegs outside, but normally they're 50 liters.
Oh, so these are the kegs that rotate.
Oh no, they're the empty ones.
But they go and come back. It's not like there's specific.
No,
I can't reserve my own keg someday.
That's the thing. Sometimes there's 2, sometimes there's 15, depending if the paper.
I'll get a marker next time, and I'll write my name on it.
I think Batumi has a lot of potential for people, especially for foreigners who want to come and find a place that's first of all free in terms of liberty.
That's true.
You can do a lot here.
It's easygoing.
Very easygoing.
Yeah.
The pace of life is very much laid back. I don't know if you've noticed it.
That's very true. Very true.
Example: if you live in the city and you wake up in the morning and you can't hear anything outside, you know it's before 10 o'clock.
That's true.
Very simple.
10 o'clock.
But then literally 10:01, it starts.
Life starts.
Life starts. So can you imagine any other place in the world? I'm sure there are other places in the world that do that, but any place where, for instance, where the listeners would be from, where that would happen.
Yeah,
and
that's very
normal,
true.
You know?
Actually, the diversity and the how do we say it? Like the easygoingness of a lifestyle in Batumi is very unique to Batumi itself.
Yes, very much so. Very much so.
You can just like you said, get up, do whatever you want, lay back, still have a busy day and not feel like you're being unproductive, and have a beer in Mary's pub, of course.
Thank you for this the fifth name drop. Thank you for paying him by the name drop.
We're not paid. We're not paid.
Can we pause? I need to pee.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Don't worry. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Welcome back.
Thanks, buddy.
To go back on the subject of beers, do you have like local beers that?
Yeah,
Hold
we
on,
do.
Let me
We do.
rephrase that. What local beers does Georgia provide? Because I'm completely ignorant. I love beer, but I can't pronounce their names.
Okay, so there are a few different, we say like major breweries here. You've got Zedazeni, which are, Zedazeni produce a lot of foreign beers under license. So for example, they produce Bavaria.
Cheers.
And cheers, mate. Cheers. They produce Bavaria, which is a Dutch beer made in Tbilisi though. They do this one called Ravi, which is a Georgian beer. Ravi just literally means this. But you have to describe.
Well, and
Like shrugging your shoulders, going,
really?
Ravi, yeah.
That's what I mean.
That's the beer. That's what the beer
In
is
French, it means delighted.
called. Delighted.
Yeah.
Ravi. Ravi. Very good. Very good. So Zedazeni, and then we have Nadaktari. Nadaktari are probably the biggest one because we're a client of theirs. So they would produce Nadaktari being their flagship beer. They produce Stella Artois, Hogarden, Stara Pramen, of what we have on draft. And
So all the beers are produced here in Georgia.
so some of them are produced here, but some of them are imported solely by this. For instance, the Stella that you're drinking is made in Georgia under license. The Hogarden and the Leffe that we have here is imported from Belgium.
So if you like Stella and you're coming from abroad, you can have a consistent Stella
Absolutely. It's the same with Heineken. Like Heineken is brewed by a company called Global Beer. Their main beer is called Kazbegi. And in my opinion, Kazbegi is the best mass-produced beer here. But to be honest with you, to deal with their company as a business-to-business basis, they're very hard to deal with, so we don't stock them in our bar. But they brew Heineken here.
All right.
So that's their big money. And also Shabby Lomi, Black Lion. You see it in the pop bottles.
Yeah.
They brew that as well. And then there are other distributors as well who literally are just import-export basis. So.
And what would be Sam's favorite beer?
My favorite beer that I have right now is called Schofferhofer. In fact, it's been a staple in Mary's pub for the last 2-3 years. Costs 10 lire a glass. And it's a Weiss beer from Germany.
Okay.
And honestly, it's delicious.
Well, we're gonna have one right now in a bit.
Sure.
Do you guys serve food here?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a full kitchen with European food, basically, and European American style food. We don't sell hinkali, we don't sell hachaporis, we don't touch the Georgian stuff because, to be honest with you, the Georgian guys do it much better than I.
Yeah, who better to do the Georgian food than the Georgians?
Exactly. So, like for instance, our we have burgers, we have pies, we have fish and chips. For instance, our fish and chips is exactly how you would have it in Ireland or the UK. We've got this down to an art now, thanks to my mother. My mother's a chef. A very fair. Fish and chips is kind of wasted on her abilities, but she was able to.
But if she makes them to perfection.
Oh, absolutely.
I've heard they have weird pies here in Georgia, up in the mountains. Or
oh yeah.
Can you tell me more?
Yeah,
about
sure.
that?
Yeah. So going back on pies, it was actually, this is a second-hand story from a friend of mine, and so he's been dating a girl from Svaneti, which is up in the north with borders Russia. And he went to visit the family up in the village. And, Svaneti is famous for every family has a tower. So,
the entire family is living in one building.
Well, they pretty much, yeah. But that's kind of a Georgian thing anyway. You go out, especially out in the countryside, you go out and you see these like 5, 6, 7 not 7 stories, but 7 windows wide, 3 stories up house.
Okay.
And you're like, wow, is that an apartment block? It's like, no, that's one family, 3 or 4 generations live there, you know, and that's how they live, you know.
Well, that's how they managed to keep the language, actually.
Absolutely.
Because
customs and
Georgian,
culture, sure.
we need to know that it's only spoken in Georgia, right? Or am I
No,
mistaken?
well, I mean, obviously there are Georgians everywhere, but it's spoken as a language, national language.
For
everywhere.
a country to be surrounded by so many different languages and still stick to their own, that's a feat of strength.
It shows you something else about the Georgians as well when it comes to their rugged determination and about anything. You know, some people would call that being stubborn, but you know, that's one of the traits I love about Georgia is the fact that they're proud, sometimes too proud of their culture, and it's especially when you start talking about people who come from Georgia who they're proud of, like Stalin, Leventi Beria.
Oh, yes.
And you're going.
I've been to the museum
been?
in Kutaisi and I saw a lot of Stalin.
Have you not been to Gori,
history.
his hometown?
Not yet. Oh, it's worth seeing.
That's it's interesting. It's some place you definitely have to go to because you're staying, and well, even as a tourist.
If you haven't been there, Gori is a place to go to.
Yeah, Gori is
It's
about 80 kilometers north of Tbilisi.
And he has his house there? Or?
They have him. Yeah, they literally the center of the town is his birthplace. It's encased in a marble kind of Pantheon style structure.
Oh.
And they have a museum. Beer's kicking in. They have a museum there solely dedicated to him. They even have his own. During the Soviet Union, he had his own personal train wagon where he would travel around the USSR.
Okay.
That's there.
Oh,
so you can
it's
walk.
Still there.
It's still there, and they have his desk from the Kremlin and everything. There's a full museum, and it's just for me as a Westerner, and you know, being aware of, you know, the horrors
history.
that are, you know, associated with that man, you kind of go morbidly. You go, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It's like how, you know, someone would go visit Auschwitz. You know, you're like, you know, there's something horrible happening there, but I'm still I need to visit. I'm curious what it, you know,
of course,
what it's like. So yeah, Stalin's museum is certainly like that, especially with the statues. Everything that you see in the room, like in the building, is owned by him or was of significance to him.
And it's still intact.
Still there, intact. Yeah, and it's, for me, I just find it very strange. But that's, as I was saying, something about the Georgian mentality is they're very proud of people who do well, and history and their heritage, and
that's great.
They don't shy away from the fact that he might be a bad man, but he's from here. He's of our land, you know.
Yeah.
They don't shy away from that.
And you were saying about the pies.
Oh, so the pies, going back to that story. So, yeah, back to the story where a friend of mine and his girlfriend were visiting her family village in Svaneti, in the north. And the pie's called kubdari. Okay. Kubdari, yeah.
We have been looking for kubdaris for 3 weeks now, straight. 3 weeks. I'm not joking. We can't find them. And everywhere...
Svaneti, well, it's a Svaneti dish, right?
Svaneti. I'll tell my wife.
And so they have a special ingredient in these pies locally. And the special ingredient is locally grown marijuana. And
really?
Yes. They use it to... So a kabdari is basically ground beef with spices. The way I described it to a friend of mine who had never been to Georgia, and I tried it, I was like, this thing is incredible. I said it was like a curry beef pie. Right, it's spicy.
Oh, it's spicy, and,
you know,
herby.
really well seasoned herbs, you know, and yeah, traditionally now you don't get it in the restaurants now, of course. Maybe you get it in the restaurant or cafe in the village, but the homemade version has it's marijuana. That's the ingredient.
So the best meal you can have in one night is a beer and a kubdari.
Beer and a kubdari in Svaneti.
In Svaneti.
In Svaneti. Yeah.
So there's no way we can get like the authentic experience except if we go to Svaneti.
Correct, yeah, correct.
That's very interesting. Correct. Looking forward to that.
Good, man.
Is there anything you want to say to the public that we haven't mentioned?
To be honest with you, nothing that I haven't really said, but maybe I'll summarize. Don't be scared of Georgians or Georgia or Batumi or anywhere here. The people, the locals, even though you may not understand them, the general feeling from them, their cultural feeling about visitors is a visitor or a guest is a gift from God.
Yeah, I've noticed that they can strike as dry at first, but it's because we have different customs and we need to cater that. And then if you meet them not even halfway, like 1% of the way they embrace you directly.
Absolutely. I mean, I tell you a funny story. One of the first 2-3 weeks I was in Georgia living. So I originally came to Georgia in 2017 as an English teacher. I got a job in a it was actually a German school, a German funded
An English
school.
teacher in a German school.
Yeah, well, the thing was they prided
Very
themselves
niche.
on they prided themselves on language learning. That's another good asset of the Georgians is so many people here speak 3 languages.
They do?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Especially
But
young people speak English, Russian, and Georgian.
English, Russian, and Georgian.
Couldn't
that's
imagine
true.
a 14-year-old kid.
I've noticed the young generation. I'm stuttering now because of the beers, but that's why we love beer.
Yeah.
The young generation actually speaks Georgian, but the older is not like there's no way you can communicate.
Basically anybody who was alive and how would I say operating. So anybody who was like a 15 or 16 years older, who were in the Soviet Union, they would speak Russian.
Yeah.
You know? Because English just simply wasn't a thing taught. Since the fall of the Soviet Union and Georgia
So English is not frowned upon. Sorry to cut you.
No, not at all.
It's not like if you speak English to someone, they're like.
Oh God, no, not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. No. I mean, even if there are Russian speakers listening, it's not a frowning point because at the end of the day, yeah, of course, there are idiots everywhere as well. Of course,
Yes.
You may say it to the wrong person, they may be offended, but as a general thing, Russian, even though it's called Russian, the language originates from this area that we call Russia. It's just a language.
Yes.
You know,
true.
if the language wasn't called Russian and it was called Jimmy talk,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be a problem.
something.
It wouldn't be a problem with the current situation.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? If it was called something, it's just the fact that it was called, Russian, and people go Russia, Russian. Okay, yeah, that. But people forget that Russian is spoken by such a large, diverse population.
Yeah, that's true.
And people who do not identify themselves as Russian, but the language is just called that because that's where it's from. It's the same as English. It's like imagine. If you spoke English and all the atrocities that Americans and English people have,
That's true.
and the British Empire have done.
But that's the media's.
Absolutely. No, language is language. It's a form of communication. It's simple as that. Simple as that.
Well, luckily we are able to communicate in English together right
Wonderful.
now.
Yeah, wonderful.
And we're expecting more people to. The community is growing really fast.
It is,
actually.
yeah, it
You've
is.
been here for 6 years.
6 years now. Yeah, I can't believe you actually haven't said that. Yeah, 6 years I've been here now.
How different is Georgia about Batumi? You were in Batumi the whole time?
Well, 5 years in Batumi. Yeah,
5
one
years
year
in
in
Batumi.
Tbilisi and 5 here. Yeah.
And did it change drastically?
Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Oh, big time. I mean, this was when I came here. This was a sleepy seaside tourist resort that catered for probably
Gambling and casinos? Or
Turkish, because gambling is illegal in Turkey, and we're 25 kilometers away from the border.
Yeah.
So they just come over. It's like Las Vegas. In fact, that's exactly how they were trying to frame Batumi. Was the Las Vegas of the Black Sea. Before COVID, they issued some incredible amount of casino licenses to people. So that's what they were doubling. Literally, to use a gambling term, they were doubling down on the casino side of things. In fact, if you opened more than 100 room hotel, they gave you a free casino license for a year.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's the plan.
That was the plan, and then COVID finished that. Because all the money was pulled out.
And you think it's for the better or the worse? That
Honestly,
it turned like that?
I honestly think it would happen. It would have happened if the war didn't. It would have happened anyway.
Yeah.
After COVID, this situation in Ukraine right now is what's causing Batumi, well, Georgia is especially because of
boom.
the boom.
Yeah.
It's because of the visa situation that they have, which is fantastic. It's given people. Honestly, during the Ukrainian war, people who needed to leave both Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, they were literally offered a golden ticket to come here.
Yeah.
And it was all...
And the rest of the world, by the way.
course,
A
as
lot
well.
of
Of
lot
course,
of
of
crisis
course.
is happening everywhere else.
Oh,
and
absolutely,
people
absolutely.
are
And,
finding a new life here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a couple that I know who, he's German and she's from Thailand. Right, and they're just this wonderful couple. And the thing is, they opened a Thai restaurant because he's actually a pilot for Wizz Air.
Okay.
Right? And she's based in Kutaisi because you fly out Kutaisi Airport. And she's basically loved his life. and they had such a huge issue with finding a place where they could stay,
Both of them.
both of them together. And they found Georgia.
Georgia
Georgia-
is really one of the solutions on this planet to
Absolutely.
living a normal life.
Sure. That's it, mate. It is living a life of. I mean, there's something to say for having the 9 to 5, working in the West or working in Europe. There's something to say about that because you have the stability to have a family, have a house, and do that. But in fairness, you do all that here in Georgia. You know.
And here it's 10 to 5, like you were saying. It's because 9 is too early for them.
It's more like 10 to 2.
10 to 2.
10 to 2, 10 to 2, and then they'll stay up until 7 because they
If you
realise.
want something to be done, you have to go by.
Yeah.
2.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
Oh sure. It is a wonderful place for that freedom and.
It is. It makes things easy.
Absolutely.
I mean, civil marriage is so easy to achieve here.
I've been a witness on no more than 6 marriages here.
I got married here, actually.
Really,
Very
congratulations!
recently. Thank you.
How long? How recent?
We've been here since September,
Okay.
and we went to get married, my wife and I, to the, what do you call it, the city hall?
Yeah.
The city
Justice
hall?
House. Yeah.
Justice House,
Public
exactly.
service,
And we were asking questions like, what's the procedure? What do we need to do? Blah, blah, blah. How long does it take? They're like, we expected it to be like a month kind of reservation and it needs like a lot of money. They're like, it takes an hour and it's free. We're like, really? Wow. That's a
it's just a document.
fantastic way to do it.
No, it's quite a funny story. You talk about getting married. My wife and I did a similar thing, but so my wife's from Ukraine, and so living in Dublin, or being in the Ukraine, or her family actually lived most of the time in Moscow. So my wife and I we got married in Copenhagen in Denmark.
Okay.
We have no connection to Denmark at all. One day I decided that this is a woman I wanted to marry, and I literally did a Google search, and I said, where is the easiest place in Europe to get married? And Denmark pops up. And the law is essentially you just have to be legal in the country for 24 hours, and you get married.
What do you mean by legal? Like
so if you're, for
legally
instance,
spend that many
be
hours?
physically in the country.
That's it.
At the time, I was I have a British passport, so at the time, Britain was still part of the EU. So I just literally needed to get a flight. So I was essentially a citizen of the EU, citizen of the country.
Okay.
And my wife to be at the time, she needed a Schengen tourist visa, and that was it. That was it. And we actually paid a service. I think it was like 1,000 euros. Just to do all the paperwork on our behalf, but honestly, it was as simple as give this woman 1,000 euros.
Basically, the rule is if you can handle your husband for 24 hours, you can handle him for life.
And that's how long divorce takes, apparently, in Denmark as well. Apparently, Denmark has the highest divorce rate in Europe, apparently, because you can literally just fill out the form online and 24 hours later,
you don't even have to make an effort.
You don't make an effort about it. But as long as you agree on everything.
I don't want to cut it too short because I'm loving the conversation with you right now.
Continue
but I'm
over a
sure
beer.
you have so many things to do today.
Fine, we got beer, man.
Sam, thank you so much for having us here in Mary's Pub.
Thanks for having me, buddy. No, thanks for coming.
We'll definitely come again, and we're looking forward to have more events with you guys here.
Sure, man. Well, as I said, I was about to say it in Spanish, mi casa es su casa, but, it's a pub. At the end of the day, it's a public house. More than welcome.
Is there a saying in Irish for mi casa es tu casa or an equivalent?
I don't think so.
My beer is your... No, my beer is your beer.
No, you never touch another man's beer.
My beer is my beer.
You never touch another man's beer or another man's woman.
Buy me a beer and you can watch me have a beer.
Fine, yeah, we'll go with that. Cheers, man. Good pleasure.
Thank you so much for everything. We'll see you very soon.